I recently finished the second season of Iron Fist, and I tried to film this before, but my microphone did not work until it was too late, so this is my second take. Sorry, I apologize for that. I'm not in a very good mood because I had to watch Iron Fist season 2. I guess I'll start off with the things that I liked about it. It was definitely shorter than most of the other seasons, which I appreciated, I have to say. Sometimes I feel bad making fun of the show because I feel like it's trying, but you also have to take into account that I had to watch it. So, I don't know. I This was definitely an improvement from the first season. I think Danny as Iron Fist is more fleshed out as a character. He's a little more compelling. I think the one thing that he did in the season that really struck with me is that he not only is a superhero, but he is a co-owner of a $1 billion company. He has so much power and money and influence, and yet he chooses voluntarily every day to work a manual labor job because he understands the importance of hard work, and I respect that. And then overall, I thought the action was much better choreographed and directed. I think the plot was a little more focused because it's a shorter season. We didn't have a ton of plot lines that just went nowhere and were completely unnecessary. And I think that Colleen is not only more interesting, but I think her dynamic with Danny is established a little better because we kind of seen the two together before. And I think a second season should be better than the first season in most cases. I can't say that about a ton of shows, but that's what you should be shooting for. And with such a disastrous first season, I'm glad that they were able to improve this one. And then the one thing that really blew me away this season was the character of Ward. He's so good in the season. He is now my second favorite Marvel character named Ward. I don't know how this plotline was so good. Somebody must have locked the director long enough to add in a plotline that didn't suck. Ward is so interesting in the season. He's this deeply tormented character who's so flawed, has so many inner demons and conflicts, and made so many mistakes. But you see, he's making a legitimate effort to be a better person and connect with people, and that's so compelling to watch. And you get so much insight into his dynamic and relationships with the people around him and this girl that he meets in this alcoholic recovery. And it's so compelling and heartbreaking and interesting. And it's surprising that a show called Iron Fist and Iron Fist has a plotline this good. Part of this plotline brought me to tears. I That is incredibly surprising. And I wish that all the other plotlines had been even somewhat close to as good as that whole character study with Ward. But unfortunately, this show is Iron Fist, so I have a lot of negative things to say. I know I previously praised this season for being shorter than normal. It's still way too long for the actual content in this. I like the first season. I think every scene drags on a little too long. I think that there's just not enough plot to put into 10, 50-minute episodes, and I could definitely feel that. I thought I was about like halfway through the season, and I felt like nothing had happened. Only a couple scenes. You could cut out 2 or 3 episodes of this season, in my opinion. And that's terrible when it's already designed to be a shorter and more fast paced kind of thing. Davos, I think, maybe had the potential to be an interesting villain, but he just isn't. They maybe could have done something cool with him being Danny's friend and their backstory, but it's just the most generic shit possible. It's like, I can't fight him. We trained together. What am I gonna do? It's so boring and predictable, and I didn't care at all. And Davos is very poorly written, and in the first season, he was a joke because of how terrible the acting was. Every time he was on screen, I was like, oh my god. And he's just as bad in this season. I can't relate to him or sympathize with him or just agree with what he's doing or anything. It's problematic. And then Mary is a character in the season, which is about all I can say about her. They kind of wanted her to be like a hero and a villain, and she didn't really work well as either. She was just kind of there, and you could cut her out; it wouldn't change anything. And also for a show called Iron Fist, Danny loses the fist like 3 or 4 episodes into the season, and doesn't get it back into the post-credit scene that will never get resolved. So maybe with a show called Iron Fist, it's already short on action, but now he doesn't even have the Iron Fist. Like, how do you write that? And well, I said the season was trying to have actual meaningful character development and interactions. I think much too often the characters say exactly what they're thinking or their whole motivation, and it just doesn't work. I wish they could have found some way to be a little more subtle, and I think the narrative would have been a lot better because of that. And then that brings me to the most abysmal part of the season, and I think this is probably worse than anything in the first season. It is Joy is one of the worst Marvel characters put to screen. I have no idea how they screwed her character up this much. Okay, first of all, she's has nothing resembling charisma. She is just purely unlikable. And then the show wants you to sympathize with her for some reason. And through that, you have her being an antagonistic character. That's how they set her up, where she interacts with the main villain, and she does or she is complicit in doing horrific things to our main character, right? So you can't even establish her as a likable character because she's not interesting or charismatic, and she's essentially a villain. But by the end of the season, I would say she's more heroic than not. But they don't give her a redemptive arc. The show just like decides that she's not bad. It makes no sense. And through this, I think the deeply flawed interactions between her and Ward were what made me hate this show. I cannot believe how much you can screw up a character dynamic. You have Ward, who is interesting. You see that he's made a lot of terrible decisions, but he's making legitimate effort to try to connect with his sister, and you see that and you feel bad for him. Joy turns him away with not thinking or anything like that, and her motivation is blaming him for things that he was vaguely connected to but not really responsible for, and the lengths that she goes to kind of pursue that just doesn't make any sense. She's not a likable character, and there's no reason to root for her or like her. I think you could have had the same character, she would have been just as unlikable, but if you had made her like funny or like charismatic, I could have maybe latched onto it a little bit, but not even trying to make her interesting. But no, they don't. They screw it up in every possible way, and she is the worst part of the season by far. I know I kind of went on a rant there, but the show makes me really angry. I think it's kind of hard to screw up a superhero show. I think it's a pretty straightforward concept, but the show, it just fails, and that's very disappointing. The only thing motivating me to get through it was after I could watch Daredevil season 3, which I watched in less than 48 hours, and I've now been done with for a week as I'm filming this video, which is crazy to see how things have played out. So I'm gonna give this season a 5 out of 10. Thank God it's over. I'm never gonna rewatch Iron Fist. I'm sad that I had to watch it in the first place, but it was kind of integral to the Marvel Netflix lore. My Daredevil review should post next week, and I'm kind of finishing up Punisher and Jessica Jones, so I can review those. Then I'll move on to watching new stuff and reviewing that. And thank you so much for watching.